Okay, guys, regrouped, refreshed, and ready to go. Okay, so, all right, you guys, listen. Thank you very much to everybody who has been watching. I appreciate you. I thank you for hanging in with me. I thank you so much for being patient with me. You all know the episode 6 was a lot. It was a lot. And episode 7 was a bit much too, but I don't know. Episode 6 just was a whole bunch. But like I said, I was going to take a little break. I've taken my little break. I sat back for a minute. I am refreshed. I'm renewed, and I'm ready to go with this. Now I'm gonna need your help with this one because this is episode 7 of Monster, which is the story of Jeffrey Dahmer as told by Ryan Murphy. Um, this episode was entitled Cassandra. It's got to be something that I missed because I got really, this one really got down into the plight of the African American uh, struggle, if you will, and not just our struggle, but melanated people as a whole, black and brown people as a whole, and what that struggle is. This was the spotlight was actually shined on that, and yeah, you'll see as I go through. But again, I don't know how I missed it, but for some reason, I don't know why this episode was called Cassandra. This episode really focused on Glenda, finally. It really focused on Glenda and what she was going through. I'm thinking, was Cassandra Errol's mother? Because I don't know, we saw somebody, the other parents, and then they spent a bit of a time right there at the door on Errol's mother. So I don't know if Cassandra was Errol's mother, but because she told them no, they couldn't come in. But we'll get to that. Y'all tell me if that why it was called Cassandra. Put it in the chat. I don't know. It just slid right by me. I'm sure it was there. I'm sure the reference was there. That one slid by me. But anyway, when we started to this, we got the mayor is actually talking about the two policemen who took the 14-year-old back to Jeffrey's apartment. And he was asking, are we going to have them be fired or some type of disciplinary action taken against them just to at least, and he spoke it, just to at least give the public the illusion, basically, that something is actually being done because they didn't know where to go. The governor, uh, the mayor, they're all talking and they're like, can this get any worse? And then they tell them some more details. And it's like, oh my God. So they didn't really know they didn't know which way they were going to turn. All they knew is they didn't want an uprising. And they were still somewhat blowing it off. Because again, it deals with the gays and it deals with melanated folk. So it is what it is. Good luck with that. So that's what we see. The detectives going to the parents to inform them, we found this and this, that, and the other. Yes, your child was there. Yes, he had IDs, the bodies, not so much, that whole thing. And it's just a lot of news coverage. And it's just a whole, I remember it was a lot. It was a lot. Glenda, actually, we go back, they rolled it back. So we actually got to see when where they literally walked Jeffrey out, and Glenda was saying, I called you all time after time, like 50 times. I called you, no one listening, and they were evicting everybody. They basically were not evicting, but evacuating everyone. Then we see this, I thought was horrible. Glenda in a sit down with a lady from HR. They were basically reprimanding her because she was having, like, episodes where she was breaking down crying and stuff. She worked in like a call center environment. And she said, well, I mean, I excused myself and I took care of what I took care of. And then I come back. I wasn't trying to upset anybody. And then I'd have her head the nerve to say, we've got complaints. And she's like, you don't understand. She's like, I do understand. She said, do you? You know, horrible. So it's bothering her job. There, I mean, just literally, again, gross negligence, just the whole don't give a shit attitude about you and what you may be going through. Could care less. Then she lean over and say, I know it was your neighbor that was making the zombies. Did you happen to see the zombies, Glenda? I said, somebody punch her. Somebody that now see, that's when you need to call HR on HR. Stupid. And that lady irritated me so bad. See, I've worked in a call center environment for many, many years. I've actually done that in my life. And you needed to call HR on her. Stupid lady. That was, oh, she was just ridiculous, just ignorant. And whoever sent her there to talk to you, you should have been ashamed to come. You should have called HR on them. Just ridiculous. But then there was a ray of sunshine, honey, in the form of Reverend Jesse Jackson. He was coming through with one of his partners. He on his way. I said, come on, Reverend. And the partner said, you know, I don't think this is part of our fight. I don't feel like we should actually be doing this. Reverend Jackson, this, that, and the other. And he's like, why? Because they're gay. So they're melanated people facing melanated struggles. It's bad policing and bad treatment, racism, poverty, and neglect. That is very much our struggle. And they are brothers and sisters too. You know, this is melanated people here. And I was like, get him all the way together. And that was the bad part. He was a younger guy. You know, Jesse Jackson, Reverend Jesse Jackson is actually from that era of people that would, don't want to talk about it. And, in their era, they didn't, they didn't mess with the gays like that. This young fella, I said, y'all be shaming yourself. But Reverend Jesse Jackson shut him right on down and came right on through, baby. Rolled up in there, rolled right up on the mayor and the governor and the chief of police and told him, they told him, you're like an outside agitator that's kind of coming. That's how it's going to be viewed. And he said, yeah, I am. I'm an agitator and I'm coming to shake up some stuff because this has affected Black and brown people. And yes, it's going to shine a light on the bad policing and the bad treatment, the poverty and the neglect that's actually going on here in Milwaukee. It is what it is. I ain't shutting up and I ain't going nowhere. And why? Hey, he said, has anybody talked to Glenda? No, ain't nobody talked to Glenda. Ain't nobody reached out to Glenda. He said, that's all right, because I'm going to talk to her. He went right on and found her. He found Glenda, rolled up in there. She said, you know what, Reverend, of course I know who you are. I voted for you twice and all of that. And he told her, you remind me of my mother. You're strong and resilient and a woman. And she said, she said, yeah, I have a daughter. And that, one of the ladies that was standing outside with her when the 14-year-old had his situation was her daughter. The daughter's 18 years old. I said, oh my God. So, I mean, the fear of what was going on or what could possibly be going on, and your baby was actually there. And in this episode, she actually talked about how her daughter, that smell had got so bad that a lot of times her daughter didn't stay there. Her daughter would stay with her boyfriend and stuff because the smell was so bad and different things like that. But just to know that, I mean, that had to, I understand why she was having breakdowns at work. Because you all have sat through this stuff for months and months on end while this is going on and you're complaining and you're in fear and you got your baby, because she 18, she's still her baby. You got your baby and a girl child is rolling in and out of this space as well. Just the thought of what could have happened. And then just get with me right here, because there was a mistake. I said, Glenda, no, oh my God, you know, I get it. But that's our strong black women. Our strong black women move like that. They will take on the weight of the world, and they'll do it without thought. You know, they do it. They do it. They stand up to men. They do stand up in men's face, you know, for what needs to be done. They'll do it. It was a bad move, and it could have been, you know, bad. But just I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna get to it. But Reverend Jesse Jackson talked to her, and she said, no matter how loud I shouted, no one ever would listen to me. No one never listened. She said, I literally have uh, news stations from around the world trying to get in touch with me, trying to get statements from me, trying to talk to me, trying to hear what I have to say. Nobody here, not the police, no one here has said anything to me. And he told her, I'll listen. And baby, when I tell you, Glenda sat there and ran it all down to Reverend Jesse Jackson, and you could just see all in his face, he was calling on the Father the whole time, like, what are you even saying to me? Like, who you lived through this? You know, she starts telling him the story of a guy named Dean. I said, see, here we go. Here we go again with how bold and brazen that Jeffrey was. He killed somebody in the building. He was a tenant in the building. I mean, how much closer does it get? How much bolder do you get? Are you serious right now? Y'all live on the second floor. You're going to kill the man on the third floor. Really? That just moved in. People may not pay attention to somebody that been there, that they may not like, but somebody who just moved in, cute little black thing. Cute. Very cute little fella. You know they was paying attention. And he was that way. You know, he was LGBTQIA. You know they was paying attention, because people always get in our business. When we come into an area and people don't know us, even if they like you or they don't like, you know, as far as the LGBT, they want to know as much about you as they can find out, because they just nosy like that. So you know they were paying attention to him. But anyway, she, you know, he had helped her up with her groceries and stuff. She put him up on game. She didn't tell him everything, but she said, there's some real weirdos here. Really watch yourself. Make sure you keep your doors locked, you know, because there's, you know, there was crackheads and junkies and all kind of stuff. And then she said, there's some really weird characters around here. He walked right out of her apartment and ran straight into Jeffrey. And she's sitting in the doorway, and she hear Jeffrey like trying to push up on him, and he was kind of like he was game. I'm like, and it didn't take long. It didn't take long. Didn't take long at all. Um, he got him. That's just what we're going to just put it there. He lured him up to his apartment. He came down to his apartment, or came up to his apartment, lured him downstairs, and he got him. Okay, he got him. Dean comes up missing. She calls the landlord. She calls the cops. The cops, no biggie. You know, no, nothing, no biggie. Well, can you come out and check? We'll send somebody out tomorrow. She's like, well, wait a minute. It could be like, you know, something's wrong. He's new here, and something wrong. That will come out tomorrow. She ends up getting in touch with the landlord. The landlord comes in. The mail has built up. Like his mail was like coming out of the box. The landlord smells the smell, goes up there, knock on the door. He's like, I can't really go into his apartment, Glenda. This guy just ain't home. But that was it. Then nobody sees him, and that's that. So then she takes him in her apartment. He tells her, or she tells him how much of a nuisance all this has been. She's hearing this drilling and all this noise and people scuffling and carrying on, and just the smell's just bad. And she's like, you need to evict him. I've been here a long time. You know, I've been living here. You need to evict him. It just is ridiculous. I done told you a million times. I call the cops on him. He is just the issue. She started naming off names of other people who were putting in complaints. So it was what it was. She ends up um, getting him to do it. He goes to Jeffrey's apartment. Jeffrey, look at the time, and he got somebody in there cleaning the carpets and carrying on. He's talking about how he paid $49.99 to get somebody to come in and scrub the carpets and blah blah blah. And, oh, I just lost my job. And the man's like, listen, you're being evicted. There's really nothing I can say about it. It is what it is. You got 30 days, and I'm gonna have to let you go. It's just become too much of a nuisance. And this all was going on right at the end. Things that just, he was spiraling. He was really spiraling. He was getting sloppy, and it was just getting to be much. But anyway, um, right after that happened, he come down and forced his way. He come to talk to Glenda. He knocked on Glenda's apartment door, and he basically forced his way into Glenda's house. Well, can I come in? This, that, and the other. And I'm like, Glenda, don't let that boy in your house. Because when he asked her, is your daughter home? And she ain't say nothing. Then he kind of like forces his way in. She's like, I'll talk to you, but it is what it is. Like you're going to be, you're getting evicted, Jeffrey. Ain't nothing to do about it. So he's saying, I knew you put the complaint in, like I promised, if you could just take the complaint back, I just won't cook no more. You know what I mean? It was the smell come from me cooking and say, running that line of bull. And Glenda's like, Jeffrey, listen, it's not just that, it's everything. It's all this noise and it's this, that. So she basically is in there accusing him of stuff and talking to him and running out different stuff. And he's sitting there. I said, girl, you're Nancy. This is a bad idea, Glenda. I don't know why you let him up in there. But again, she fed up. She fed up. And she's again showing him, I'm not scared of you, which she is really. But I mean, that's a black woman. A black woman will stand there 10 toes down to get it done. That's just what they do. That's how they do it. They carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. That's what they do. And sometimes the decisions don't be the best decisions, but come on, child, we love you. That's what y'all do. Slow down sometime though. Because you had my nerves bad, Glenda, with this. But he done brought her this sandwich. She's like, I'm not eating anything. And then when she asked him, well, he said, did I tell you I was a butcher? Do you remember that I'm a butcher? He basically was threatening her on the slick. I was like, the universe is so tired of you, and I am too. And he's going on, and she asked him, well, what kind of sandwich is it? And he said, it's kind of like pulled pork. Child, that was Dean. That was Dean, because that's just the way he is. He ignorant. But she said, I'll eat it later. He would say, eat it now. I want to see you eat it. I want to see you taste it. Just all that old weird shit. She's like, man, get up out of my apartment. It is what it is. You get evicted. I ain't got nothing to do with it. I don't care to hear none of that. It's too much. It's just keep going on. You keep playing games, and now you got to go. That's all. But when he left, he heard some people in the hallway because he thoroughly intended to do something to her. I know he had then probably put poison in that, and I'm sure that sandwich was made up of Dean, who she kept on asking where Dean was. Just don't trust him. He's just terrible. But anyway, she said, I'll eat it later. She left it on the table. She ends up later on that night, she falls asleep. She ends up, she told him, if you tell me where Dean is, I'll take the complaint back. He's like, I don't know where he went. I ain't seen him. Goes on later that night, she actually hears a boy. She's seeing Jeffrey coming in with a young guy. And later that night, she hears the young boy, hears some screaming and carrying on. And then she literally hears him being cut up. And she was actually telling that story to Reverend Jesse Jackson. And he was just spent when she was done and telling the story. And he told her, she said, and I told everybody, Reverend, I kept telling them nobody would hear me. Nobody was listening to me. He told her, your voice will be heard. It's going to be hard because it's hard to come against the police. So it's going to be a battle, but your voice will be heard. And she just broke down in his arms. She broke down, and I was like, Okay, Glenda. I was like, all right, they trying to take me out again. And I was like, all right, reprieve. Because that's basically where this episode ended. This episode wasn't as heavy as coming down off of episode 6. It was like, okay, I was able to stomach this. But this, just the thought of it is still very heavy. I it's the what I didn't see, just the what ifs and the hindsight being 2020 about how you had, when you're getting, can you imagine sitting there watching the news and you think something's going on, and that little voice in your head is saying this is bad. But then when you see, it's one thing when you think but it's another thing when you know what it was, and it was just running constantly on the news. It's just running constantly on the news. And again, I sat here and I was like, oh my God, you had your baby there this whole time. You and him kept battling back and forth. What was it that stopped him from targeting your daughter? You know what I mean? What stopped him? And again, he was getting so loose and crazy with things. He would have came. I mean, he came for Glenda, flat out. He came for Glenda. Had he not got caught when he did, I'm sure he would have probably, tapped out and came in there trying to do something to Glenda, because he was just getting more and more sloppy with the way he moved. And thank God she had no sons. Thank God she had no sons, because he'd have probably went straight for him. Maybe that's the thing that saved the daughters, that she was a girl. I don't know. But all those things were kind of running through my mind. Listen, like I said, I ain't got nothing else really too much to say about this episode. You all tell me, what were your thoughts on that? Did you get caught up in the what could have been and the hindsight of it all, of Glenda? I've been thinking about Glenda this whole time, really, and they hadn't really focused on her too much until now. I've really been just thinking about just her mindset after feeling that you were in danger, but then really knowing that you were really in danger, and God literally had his arms wrapped around you and your child that whole time. He had you wrapped up that whole time, because you literally had a maniac on your heels and you were battling. You were just straight up battling with him. And he knew you were battling with him. Baby, you was wrapped up. You was wrapped up in him. You understand? All wrapped up, honey. Anyway, that was a lot. Y'all tell me in the comments, what did y'all think? What's your thoughts on Glenda? What was Glenda's mindset like? What did you think of this episode? I'm gonna step out here. Again, thank y'all for, I got emails and stuff. Y'all were concerned. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good. I was a little taken, but I'm good. And we're gonna continue on. We 3/4 of the way there. So listen, come on, I gotta scroll back. So we pushing through, y'all. I'll talk to y'all later.